wonderful assistant, Leah Connor, I welcome you to our annual kickoff for the CTC's. We call it a fall marathon training, half marathon training program, but it's actually a summer training program. It gets you prepared for a fall event. This has been a lot of fun for me. This is our 21st year doing this. We feel like each year we improve on the previous, and we're really glad to see. I'm glad to see so many familiar faces, and I'm particularly glad to see a lot of new faces joining us for this, what I consider one of my favorite times a year. Really look forward to it. The program is different than just about any other, certainly the other track club programs we have, but just about any other marathon training program in America. All the other training programs we have through the Charlottesville Track Club, and of course Charlottesville Track Club is the not-for-profit governing body that drives the energy. I'd like to think of the running energy in our community. And what makes this program a little more distinct is that the other programs drive you towards a certain event. The women's 4-miler, the men's 4-miler, the Charlottesville 10-miler. And most marathon training programs are, I don't want to say self-serving, but a lot of times they're driving you towards a marathon that the person running the program is charging you $150 for the race, and then they're charging you for the program, and it all wrapped into that particular scenario. This is different. We learned a long time ago. I've been coaching marathoners for, gosh, almost 33 years, and I've been doing this program for 21 years, and I just feel like with the way people's lives are, you're busy, you're on the go, whatever is your personal reasons, you have different events you want to do. So it's the beauty of the program, it's the challenge of the program, and I'm going to get into that in a second. We set the program up 21 years ago to help guide people safely, happily to their marathon and goals. And we added the half marathon probably about 10 years ago. We added the half marathon. The half marathon was virtually a non-existent distance. I was reading recently that for the first time in the last generation, marathon numbers slid a little bit last year, and they were saying it's interesting. It's the feeding on one another. The half marathon is chewing away from the marathon numbers, which is not a negative, but we introduced the half marathon several years ago into the mix. I said safely, it's the number one goal, to keep you injury-free throughout the summer. Our track record continues to get better and better. Last summer, knock wood, was the lowest injury rate we've had since we've had the program. It's a high-risk activity in that you guys are trying to fit running into already busy lifestyles, and with crowned roads, country roads, with humidity, with people traveling a lot, a lot of variables that are outside of the actual running act itself that make it a challenge, but our injury rate is really low. The Boston group, I have a Boston-bound group. It's people that come out of this program each year that have qualified for Boston or close to qualifying, and it's a little different group, and we had our best record ever. We had 21 people start at the beginning of the winter, and 21 people make it through without injury. I take a lot of pride in that. It's my number one obsession. If you're injured, you're frustrated. I'm not disappointed with you. I'm not frustrated with you, but I am frustrated for you. It's no good. You're no good to yourself at that point. You're no good to anyone around you when you're injured. It's a negative. So we try and keep that to a minimum. And I'm going to go into that in a second. Second goal is to have you have fun. I'm huge on that. Huge. Some of my coaching is a little unconventional. Sometimes people say, why don't we do the same workout? I like when we repeat workouts. Well, most people don't like to do the same workout over and over again. You'll see some variance. I'm trying to keep it fun without it straying from the scientific. And then third goal is to really have it incorporated into your lifestyle at a really balanced manner. I'm gigantic on that. When I start seeing those scales tipped, I'm troubled. As your coach, I'm responsible. Very much I feel it, even though in a big group like this, come on, Mark, you shouldn't take it that personally. I take every athlete I coach, every scenario very personally, in that I want you to keep your lifestyle happy. And many of you have partners, spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, roommates, whatever. I want them to like me. I don't want them to hate me. And no quicker way, and that starts to make it sound a little too personal. I'm trying to be funny, but if we tip the scale and it begins to become a burden for you and your lifestyle, It starts to make you too tired at work. It starts to make you irritable at home. It starts to pull away from that. I failed. So we try and keep that balance. And the term I use quite often is to fit your running into your lifestyle, not your lifestyle into your running. We're far from obsessed with this. That's why the personalized questionnaire, you each filled out a questionnaire. The more you filled it out, the more detailed you were, the greater chance I'm going to make that happen, that whole notion of balance. You know, what works for you? How many days per week? What days are they? Because the only day that's set in stone for us, and it isn't even set in stone for you, is Saturday. We're totally inflexible with that because of the design of the program. I'll talk about that in a second. That's when we do our long group run. It's a logistical nightmare if we were to start offering that 2 days a week or we were to vary it. But you can do your long run at another time if it works best for you. My youngest son, Adrian, was up at Boston with us. It was the first time he'd ever been to Boston. Cynthia and I try and take one of the kids each year when I go up to coach. I see Henry sitting here. Henry's been. Leah was here this year up in Boston. And he was so taken by the feeling, pre-bombs and post-bombs even, of the atmosphere that he said, Dad, I want to do my first marathon. So he'll be in the training program too, but he can't do his long runs. He does his long runs during the week, so he'll have to have a different program written for him. So anyway, keeping that balance is important. And then hitting your goal, that's huge. But it's number 4. A lot of coaches, and I'm not cutting down other coaches, but I do find it a little bit odd to have that goal be number 1. If that goal becomes number 1 and you don't keep the other 3 in mind, balance in your life, safety, and happiness, I don't get it. I don't get it. I love this sport. I love this sport a lot longer than I've loved the act of marathoning or coaching marathoners. It's in my blood. It really is. I've been running for almost 45 years. I absolutely believe in this sport deep, deep in my heart, and I believe that it's the great democratic sport. It opens its arms to everyone. So you look at our cover picture this year, on our booklet every year. It's a big process for me. I select a cover, and we've got this year. These are not the 4 fastest people in our group, but they're 4 the quickest improving, change their lifestyle. They are the face of what I believe in this training program. I think there's at least 3 of them here. Back there, they're grinning now. So it's a good thing you were smiling for this photo. Who would ever thought? But this was a photo that for me also meant a lot because they took the time, they posed for it. They really wanted to get this picture back to me, the coach. It brought everything full circle. They signed it. They had different experiences there. Some had really great race. Some didn't do as well as they had hoped. It's still, look at their faces. It looks like they've won the Olympics. Some of it might be the beer in their hands. I noticed the beer in the hand. I think it's beer. And after I put the picture on the cover, and I said, I wasn't thinking. I should have edited that out. No. Again, keeping with that whole notion of balance. Last year, the surveys that came back afterwards, there was plenty of constructive criticisms. We can talk about this tonight a little bit. But the overwhelming sense was people got a lot out of it. What did they get out of it? They got coaching. Of course, that goes without saying. But they got new friendships, which is huge. Training partners. Some have become lifelong training partners, not the ones from last year, but they will be, some of them. But certainly people have been in this program for many years, and people have graduated from this program and not come back to it. The people they've met in training there have become lifelong training partners. You get to see the county and our area. If you're new to the area, you're about ready to become very open-eyed to how some pretty special places, they're like secret places, but they're really neat places to run. If you aren't new to the area, maybe that's still going to happen for you if you haven't had a chance to explore. You're exposed. One of the things that people said they really enjoyed was the fact that the long runs each week, the group runs, were set up each week for them. The course marked, water, Gatorade every few miles, measured, cliff bars at the end, ice at the end, maps. They think that's a real plus. The personalized program, when you fill out a questionnaire, it takes me a while to write the programs, and I'm going to explain that process in a second, but that was one of the other things people said they really enjoyed from it. But I think there was an overwhelming sense of folks that they just felt it was positive. We try and keep it positive without it getting, I'm not big on the corny, sappy side of things. I want to be realistic. I want you to do the best you can in your events, but at the same time, it is kind of a spiritual process that you go through. You change your body physically, you do things you never thought you can do before. Pretty neat stuff. So anyway, a lot of positives from it. Leah's in my role, and Joan is not here tonight. I'm going to go over those roles real quickly. I serve as the coach. I'm your go-to person when it comes to injuries, tweaking your programs. If you haven't gotten your programs and you have questions about the process, what you should be doing at any given time, I'm going to be the person to talk to. I'm huge on communication. I have threatened to do this. It'd be silly to do it, but I'm kind of joking a little bit, but I've often thought about you signing a covenant with me to say, Mark, I promise, I swear, blood, you can slice your thumb and put it on it, that I will call you within 24 hours of something going astray. I saw Conrad was in early. He went through our 10-month training program. He's kind of the poster child of communication, and the proof is in the results. Goes through the winter, no injuries that set him back. There's a big difference between an injury and injury that sets you back. An injury is it's part of the process. You're training for a marathon. Come on, it's going to happen. You're going to have problems. But how quickly you communicate with the coach is going to be the difference between going into a full-blown injury where you're out, or you're missing 3 or 4 weeks, and you're thinking, okay, am I going to make this goal? And it be in 1 or 2 days. So you've got to communicate. I'm pretty frustrated with the notion that people don't want to bother me. I find that almost silly because I say every summer at the beginning of the summer that I want to be bothered. You bother me a lot more. If I have to hear something secondhand, I almost get enraged because I've had this covenant with you, and how can I coach you? And this is what happens. So people, and this is a personal thing that drives me crazy. People say, yeah, I'm in the summer training program. Oh, isn't Mark Lorenzoni coach? Yeah, but I got injured. And they're editing out the fact that the first time they communicated to me about their injury was 3 or 4 weeks after it started hurting. So the longer you take to communicate, the worse. It isn't worse with me. It's the longer it's going to take to get over it. So I passed out a little sheet on how to communicate with me. You should have gotten it. It's this little tiny. I thought of this last night after I was rereading the questionnaires from last year. Leah resent them to me yesterday, and I had a chance to read them yesterday. And there was one that just drove right into the heart that said, Mark is so hard to get in touch with or to meet with. And I was struck by last year's opening meeting where I said, you can make an appointment. He said he doesn't offer office hours, doesn't offer, it's really hard to get him. I'll meet with you one-on-one with you any time that's within this time frame here, any week. You just give me a call. I don't do email. If any of you have been around me, I know this seems like and we actually do have an email address, and we have running water at home, and we have other things too. But if I give out my email address, I'm sunk, because I don't have a computer at work for a reason. I don't sit. I don't sit during the day. It's my lifestyle. It's what I've chosen. I love it. I interact with people, interface. And I'm not trying to say I'm special or that I want you to be this way, but it's the realities of it. Everybody has their own job description. That's mine. I interact with people. So the first time I sit down at the computer is 9:30 at night. Because I have 4 kids. I have a really great marriage. It's special to me, that relationship. If I'm sitting in front of a computer, that affects that relationship. So I sit down at 9:30 at night. I might know, and this is a rough estimate, 25,000 people in this town may know me. But some of it's just on a first-name basis. If I start opening that floodgate up, I'm in big trouble. I can't even get through the emails that have slipped through my firewalls. This one woman, she always starts off by saying, I know how much you hate email, Mark, but I couldn't get to the phone during the day, and it's this long to just ask one question. So I don't do it. It's also not a proper way to coach. I'm too old school. That's what you're stuck with. I'm a face-to-face voice person. Conrad, you know it. We talk on the phone. You know, I can hear his voice. I can pick apart something he might be saying. Leah knows. I've worked with her, Henry. A lot of you that know me personally know that's how I like to work. So if I say, how's it been going? You say, oh, it's all right. I'm saying, come on, tell me what's going on. But anyway, there's a bunch of ways you can get in touch with me. And I definitely do private appointments before hours where you got me one-on-one. Take advantage of it. You're not bothering me. I really do enjoy. I will tell you this. I'll go out here bold with this. I enjoy that part of the relationship more than just about anything else. It's how I get to know you better. It really is. You're suddenly, it's almost like if you're in a class and you have a professor and suddenly you go in for extra credit afterwards and you establish a relationship with professor. In fact, I gave a commencement speech last night to a very small group of high schoolers. I don't want to sound pretentious about it, but that was one of my tips was go beyond just being a name, put a face to a name in a class, and it's the same thing with you guys. I'll be able to be a better coach. It sounds like I'm harping on this, but boy, some of those comments last night were really, I'm still stinging from them, that I'm really, because I don't do email, I'm inaccessible. I think that's really pathetic on the person's part that wrote that, because you see here how easy it is to get me. The programs take a little, Leah's role. I'm getting way off tangent. Oh my gosh, they get off tangent. Leah is brought the program into the 21st, some would say into the 20th century, the way we used to do it. She is really runs the website for us, takes care of all the nuts and bolts of communicating through the virtual means or Facebook. I write the weekly messages. She gets them out to you. Some people say, well, that's silly. Well, again, if I send them out, there's email address. Suddenly, they're just these quick, what appear to be quick comments back to me, but I got to read them. It's taken up time away from writing the programs, which is my biggest role I think I play is writing your programs. That's very time-consuming. Leah is one to go to with nuts and bolts questions. Anything else, Leah, you can think of? I mean, she troubleshoots behind the scenes. For me, personally, it's someone I can lean on to say, what are you hearing out there? What are you feeling like? Should we change the starting time of the group run? What are you hearing? Because she's out there training with you. Anything, Leah, you can think of?